Tēnā rā koutou katoa, ki te tā o tōku pāpā, no Ngāti Kauwhata, no Rangitāne, ki te tā o tōku mama, no Rongo Whakaata, Ngāti Parau me Kaitau. Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Awerangi Tamihere ahau. This afternoon, or later this evening almost, it feels like, by judging some of the eyes closing in the audience, and I hope we make it through this session, is I'm here to talk about Te Pou Matakana, and that's about a whanau ora model. Now, why would a whanau ora model be here and a launch today? Well, that's quite a significant question, but there is also quite a significant answer, a milestone to that. The first thing is, it's the very first time in a Māori economic strategy of any sort do you see whanau ora being acknowledged as an important part if we're truly looking at the aspirations and well-being of our people and of our whānau. It's about families flourishing, about our whānau flourishing. And so when we talk about collective impact as the title of this session, what is important to note is that when we're looking at the economic well-being of our whānau, the health, the well-being of the oranga, ohanga, mātauranga, tikanga, rangatiratanga, which are all important outcomes for our people, the economic strategy must sit alongside a whanau ora well-being strategy. Even though they have different blueprints for achieving those outcomes, together we truly are looking at how we measure and make a difference for the outcomes for our people. So today I acknowledge the teams on board have pulled this plan together and seeing that there is a place for whanau ora in a forum such as this. Not only that, Ngāti Rangi, who just came and spoke just beforehand with Erina, Ngāti Rangi is one of our whanau ora partners, and in fact one of our leading whanau ora partners about showing, as they have done on the ground, how you have to look at a range of strategies on the ground if you truly are going to look at outcomes for people, of which a lot of outcomes is economic well-being. We also have in the room with us today another whanau ora partner, Te Tihi o Ruahine, which is another leading-edge whanau ora collective impact program in the Rangitane area, which is involved and put in place an economic strategy against their whanau ora strategy. So there is not an either-or approach, it's an and approach. We work together to achieve the same outcomes we're all looking at, aspirational, flourishing whānau for our people. So on that note, I've been asked to talk about Te Pou Matakana, catalysing change through impact. But what I want to do is all very well, as we heard earlier today about storytelling, it's all very well for me to stand up here and talk about what do we do with whānau. How do we actually make a sustainable change in the lives of our people and their well-being? Well, let's start off with hearing a little bit about Te Pou Matakana and a story of the examples of the type of whānau approaches we're using to get those outcomes.
When Māori communities flourish, Māori families flourish. A sense of whānau, or family, comes not just through blood relationships, but also the kinship we build in our communities and a sense of belonging and pride in our Māoritanga, our Māori way of life. Whanau ora literally means healthy families. Whanau aspirations for their health and well-being are at the heart of the whanau ora approach, which enables Māori families to determine their own health outcomes. It's a holistic approach for Māori, by Māori. Te Pou Matakana commissions Māori organisations across the North Island who can connect with our people in a way other agencies don't, and offer the tools whānau need to identify and meet their aspirations. Building relationships of trust, our kaiarahi leaders walk alongside our people, creating a conduit to a wide range of resources for collective impact. Te Pou Matakana's approach is to commission for outcomes, with a Māori design model to express those outcomes. Recognising all elements of well-being and being able to chart progress in these areas is meaningful for whānau.
We made a 5-year goal to have our own house. It's insulated. We haven't been getting sick as much, and finish level 3, then do my degree. And it's been not even 3 years yet, and we've accomplished all of our goals, so we need to set some more.
Building flourishing families means whanau ora is building Māori future makers.
So that just gives a little bit, because I've got 8 minutes, this is a fast track, but it gives you a little bit of an insight about what Te Pou Matakana is about. But really, what I want to say is Te Pou Matakana is one of 3 new commissioning agencies for whanau ora in New Zealand. Te Te Pou Matakana is the very first to take a different approach to look at funding of services, but not so much funding of contracts in a traditional sense. This is an investment program when we actually invest in outcomes that whānau want to achieve. It's not a top-down approach. It's not dictating a set of services, specifications. It's about mapping a program where whānau determine their outcomes and we measure and track, are those outcomes achieved? So to give you a little bit of example of the difference between a traditional type of funding model and this investment program through Te Pou Matakana, I'm going to share with you some of examples. The first thing in the conventional funding model is it's focused on buying very tightly defined services. Te Pou Matakana, and I'm going to show you very quickly, is about buying an outcome. We don't dictate what it is. It's about working with whānau order partners on a regional level who work with families on the ground to look at what outcomes they want to achieve. No specifications are set, because at the end of the day, the whānau have to own the outcome that they want to achieve themselves. So it's about a bottom-up approach. The second one, in the conventional model, you tend to focus on costs and short-term efficiencies. Social value, which is something our people often talk about, is not considered. Ours is about what is the change that families make over time? What is the stories they're telling that shows the change that they're making over time? What are not only the economic costs, but what is the social value as a result of making that change? Can't be answered here in this forum, but just to say in 2 weeks' time, launched in Parliament by our Minister of Māori Affairs, we've just done our very first social return on investment program. It's the second one only in New Zealand, and it's the very first one done for Māori. Where for the first time, for every single dollar that goes into a program, we're able to account for what is the social value and return that the government gets for that dollar. For us, that's a significant way forward, and it's very much a focus for us about being able to measure and demonstrate the value that our programs make on the ground for our whānau. So it's about having a whanau-centric model. I don't even think I was supposed to say that, but that just came out in all my passion just then. But anyway, I'll deal with that when I go back to work tomorrow. The next thing that I just want to give as an example is that in the conventional funding model, data requirements are led by needs and deficits. This is a very different program. This is about we're collecting wellbeing data. What is the change that's happening for whānau on the ground? What are the outcomes they are achieving? Are they achieving those outcomes? Te Pou Matakana has been around for 2 years. It's going into its 3rd year. We've set up a new outcomes measurement system working alongside our whānau order partners. What's different? For the very first time, as well as having the national data sets about deficit approaches, about what's not working, we're collecting across the whole of North Island a wellbeing data set, an aspirational data set of what's working with our whānau on the ground. And that's what we're really excited about. I haven't got time in this presentation, but there are examples. We've just released our first outcomes report demonstrating what are the immediate outcomes for our whānau achieved across all of our programs in the North Island. Measuring what the outcomes are is just as important as ensuring the outcomes are achieved in our model. The next one in a conventional funding model is, as I've said before, it's a hierarchical top-down. Determine what it is at the top, and then put the specifications out. It's a very different model here. It's quite an adaptable, agile model where we develop some overall frameworks, what I'm going to show you, but once again, whānau determine their outcomes. Our partners sit alongside them to put those into an assessment tool, a plan, and then we measure the change for those whānau. Conventional funding model, often it closes down the space for innovation because you're targeting specifically well-defined services. This one is a move away from that. On the Te Pou Matakana website, you'll see examples of innovation. It seems like innovation for some of us, but it's actually common sense, logical programs in place that whānau see happening with their own providers and partners on the ground. But they've been given the space to do that. They can see more common sense ways to achieve outcomes, being told what to do. The last one, the conventional funding model, bids were based on contracts. We have an iterative, adaptive approach. While we set an outcome type of model approach with our whānau order partners, it's for them to determine what services and how they provide those on the ground with our partners. So let's talk a little bit about the commissioning program. So the commissioning program is very broad, our investment program. We have 3 different investment programs. The first one is called Whanau Direct. Simply it's about meeting a moment of need. It's about an immediate term outcome, where whānau within 24 hours, 48 hours, have a crisis, have an issue, and need some help. So our program is put out to our regional partners across North Island, where they're given grants and money to be able to meet that moment of need for that particular whānau. No criteria set from that, the partners do that with the whānau on the ground. Second one is called Kaiarahi, which is short-term outcomes. Often what's forgotten about and underpins every whānau order model is that what works in the whānau order space that often isn't actually recognised in other spaces is the role of a kaiarahi, or a role of a navigator, a role of, if you call it for some of you, lifestyle coach. Because they're the ones on the ground that have to develop the relationship of trust with our people. They're the ones on the ground that actually have to go to co-determine the pathway of change for those people. That means our whānau will then own that journey. The third part of that is that they also then are able to navigate those families across different programs. They might start off in a program, but if a whānau need is different, they can change them. So they're able to change the pathway. And the fourth one is navigation. Here's a range of our partners across the North Island for each of our programs. We do have a regional focus too. We're our regional whānau order partners. We have one lead who works with other whānau order partners. And if you like, they're called the backbone, the hub, that help ensure that regional approach and making sure things happen down on the ground. Lastly, I was going to do this, but I've run out of time. This is totally in line. We have one specific program called Collective Impact, and that's about realising that whānau have multiple needs but complex problems. Not one program, not one solution is going to fix it. It requires a whole of sector approach. There's some amazing examples of outcomes happening on the ground. Ngāti Rangi is one of them. And that just follows the typical approach in the sharing economy that's happening now if I'm talking in the language of us here today. Lastly, I've talked about the collective impact agenda. It is a specific program. People use collective impact as a woolly term. We actually have a very specific set of measures against that, of which those are the 5 bases. Te Pou Matakana is a commissioning agency that supports the aspirations of our whānau as they navigate their journeys towards becoming strong and resilient. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.